Howdy. This is Great Pilgrim. I want to tell a tale. Now, many who are into the stuff I'm into already know this tale, but some folks don't. So this is more for them than for you old hens. Back in the early 19th century, this fellow named Sam Colt had been working on a ship. His dad had done what you usually do with a malcontent kid. You send him off to the Army or the Navy. Well, he sent him off to the Navy, and he worked a merchant ship in Europe and Asia and stuff. Anyway, he says he got this idea from looking at the ship's wheel. In reality, I think he got the idea when he went to England and saw some ordnance sitting up in the Tower of London. They had some early revolvers, and I mean really early, flintlock. And these revolvers, the way they worked is you would cock your hammer, because it's a flintlock, the steel or the cock that would hit the steel, but there was no connection to the revolver itself. Then you would turn the revolver to the new cylinder, and it would click in place, fire, and again, cock it, prime your pan, turn the cylinder. So that was the sequence, the manual of arms with the thing. Well, he took this idea and incorporated a hand that would turn the cylinder when you cocked the hammer. And this idea worked really well, except that the original of it had too many parts, was a little complicated, was finicky, and had some issues. He called it the Colt, well, we call it the Colt Patterson because it was made in Patterson, New Jersey. Colt had very little money at the time, and what he did is he worked his way across the Midwest, working as Dr. Colt of Calcutta, demonstrating nitrous oxide to the yokels for money. Sent the money back to Patterson, to the gunsmiths there, and made these things. Well, they were overly expensive and too complicated, and the whole thing fell apart. Colt went bankrupt. Well, he had to sell off all of the machinery for this to pay off some of his debts, and he didn't pay them all off. This was a hallmark of Colt, that he never paid them all off. Anyway, so he's sitting around with his latest idea, which is underwater mines that he's tinkering with. By the way, he was sort of partnered with a fellow named Alexander Graham Bell on that one. When a Texas Ranger, there was a group of Texas Rangers under, was it named Coffee Hayes, who had fought in the Seminole Wars and had used those Colt Pattersons. Now, remember, at that time, most cavalry, they would have a single-shot pistol and a single-shot carbine. So when the Cheyenne came attacking, you go bang, and then they come back and you go bang, and then they'd say, then you'd be furiously reloading. Well, they would wait until two bangs and then come back and attack with their bow and arrow, thinking, aha, stupid troops, they're out of ammo. Well, then these guys would pull out Pattersons, and each one of them had two of them, and there were 5 shots. So they had 10 rounds each. Bang, 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 bang. And there's 20 guys with 10 shots each. You can take out a lot of Indians doing that. And they did. And the Indians hated it, and they loved it. Well, they sent one of their numbers, a Captain Sam Walker, to Washington and to get some money, appropriations for this new Texas Ranger thing that they were starting up, and also because they were being drafted into the new Mexican War. And they needed this ordnance, but they didn't want the Patterson because they realized how finicky it was. But they wanted to get a hold of Sam Colt and see if he could figure out a way around this. Well, he ran into Colt, and they sat down and designed a new pistol, which became known as the Colt Walker after Sam Walker. Problem with it, it was a horse pistol. It was huge. It weighed a ton. It's made out of iron. I've got a couple of examples up on the wall there. And it had some issues. It was made out of iron, and it really wasn't strong enough for the metallurgy wasn't great for the pressures involved. Excuse me, I've got this damn sinus issue, and it's just bugging the heck out of me. Anyway, after a while, Colt made 1,100 of these things. He was contracted to make 1,000. And what he'd done, by the way, he had kept track of where the tooling from the old Patterson plant went, and he bought it back with the money he got for tooling up for this this new pistol for the Texas contract. And he grabbed it all and put it into his new Hartford, Connecticut plant that he was going to buy. Well, he put it into a rented place at first, and then he later built his plant. And he built these huge Walker pistols, 1,100 of them. He used the 100 spares to give out his presentations and to show off to like senators who might be persuaded to invest more into him. Anyway, it worked out pretty well. And after that debacle in Texas and New Mexico, he had orders for more of these things. Well, he decided to go back to the drawing board and tinker with it, because the Walker could take 60 grains of powder and a conical bullet. And it said that until the development of the .357 Magnum in the 1930s, the Walker was the most powerful handgun available. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds good. But anyway, when he went back and tinkered, what he came up with was a slightly adapted Walker. And this is it. It's called the Colt Dragoon. I think this is about 1850, the Walker was 1847. I think this is about 1848 to 1850, somewhere around there. And the cylinder on this is just slightly smaller than the one on the Walker. And it has a lot of other improvements on it. The loading gate is better built. I mean, there's a lot of things that it does differently. And he cleaned up a lot of the issues that he had with the Walker. But the thing still is a horse pistol, and you would only put this in a saddle holster. You couldn't wear it on your belt. It's just too dang big. If interested, go find the old John Wayne movie of the original True Grit, and was it Kim Darcy who played the girl in there, is walking around with one of these things, and it looks like it's about the size of her arms. It's huge. Well, anyway, he was filling basically military-type orders with this thing. But that wasn't enough. He wanted something that the common man could use. So he came up with this, the 1849 Pocket. This one, this was in .44. This one is in .31 caliber. And remember, in 1849, this fellow named Sutter had a mill in California and discovered some kind of yellowish-looking metal in the water there. And the story went out all the way to New York, and everybody and their brother decided, hey, California is where I want to be. And they loaded up and went to, went there. But if you're out there staking a claim and digging up gold, you want some kind of weapon sitting in your sash. And this is the weapon of choice. It came in two models. This is the original model. And this one came out a little later, and it's called the Wells Fargo. These two guns were the most popular 19th century weapon that Colt ever designed. And they sold like hotcakes. You could get a pepper box much cheaper, but this one was much more accurate. It's still nothing more than really a belly gun, but this one, by the way, came in shorter barrels and longer barrels. These days, these are both clones, and this is about all you can get. I really would love one with one of the little shorty barrels on it, but you can't have everything. Both of these have some issues with shooting them, but that one I put click spring nipples on because that works a little better. This one, they don't fit so well. This is an Army San Marcos. I think, is this one? I don't know. I think this is New Birdie. Anyway, then along comes the Civil War. And well, first there's the 1851 Navy in 36. And then there's the 1860 Army in 44. And the Army was very, very popular with the North. And the Navy was very popular with the South, to the point where, Colt was always trying to run the blockade runners and bring in his 1851s to the South. Some of them made it through, some of them didn't. But he always remembered Texas and tried his best to help them out. But after that thing called the Civil War, and while it was still going on, now remember, Colt was getting up there, and he was suffering from gout badly, and he died, I think, in 1862 or 63. And the last gun he was working on, he was looking at this and saying, this 31 belly gun, which, by the way, a lot of troops on both sides had versions of this thing as their backup. But in both cases, it was something that most people just didn't really want to deal with. They wanted something with a little more power. And Colt came up with something in 1862 to solve that. This is an 1862 36 caliber 5-shot new was it police pocket police or something like that, which was basically to fill what the police in New York City wanted as something to carry. The other ones, well, they worked, but they just weren't good enough to go after the bad guys these guys were going after. And these ones sold very, very well. And up until 1873 or so, and the beginnings of the bored-through cylinder and 45 long Colt and the like, this was a very, very popular gun. But this is the last gun that Colt himself worked on, because he passed while this was being developed. And then Elijah Root took over the company, and the rest is history. But this is a really fun gun to shoot. I know this is also a clone. I forget, is this a Pieta or a Uberti? This is a Pieta. Ubertis have the logo under the loading thing here, and Pietas have it sort of ugly on the side. But, you know, it works. But it's just a very nice gun. So this story is one that anybody who's really into the black powder era and cap and ball revolvers would know. And if you didn't know it, that's the story of the beginnings of the revolver in American history. The way these work is single action, as we call it today. When you cock the hammer, you notice how the cylinder turns. You would fill this with powder, put in a ball, put a cap on here, and then keep it. If you were carrying it around, you would keep it like that between cylinders, because that's safe. You don't want to have this down on a cap, because if it drops out of your holster and hits like that, kabam, it just took your shoulder out. So you don't want to do that, or maybe it might smash the chandelier above you. So instead, you put it between the cylinders, but it's still cock it and you're ready to go. And you have 5 rounds that you can just shoot off and really work well. This is just a miniaturized version, well, really, of the 1860. It has the elegant lines of the 1860. But anyway, that's the story of Colt until the beginning of the single action army. Well, there's also the new line Colt. Those are in 22, but that's another story. This is their real, well, there was also the Root. There were several other, the Root revolver. I wish I had a Root. Look at 11 Bang Bang. They do a special on the Root. They've got one. Curse them. Not really, Garrett and Ethan. I think you have some really cool guns. But anyway, just a story to tell and keep people entertained. Happy trails.